All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brighton Area Schools Board of Education meeting. Please rise, and I would ask Mr. Steve Conaway to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence in memory of 9/11.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We would continue to stand for a moment of silence for the victims of 9/11. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conaway. All right, Ms. Ackermite, roll call, please.
Mr. Storm?
Present.
Dr. Krebs? Here. Ms. Reed?
Here.
Mr. Conley?
Here.
Mrs. Marks?
Here.
Mr. Trombley?
Here.
Mr. Myers?
Here. All right, that moves us to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Trombley. Support by Mr. Reed. Support by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. That moves us to the superintendent report. We are going to just deviate just slightly before we, Dr. Outlaw, before I have you address the items in the superintendent report. I would ask Mr. Conway, while he's still here from the American Spirit Center, we have on our agenda this evening for future action, the consideration of a JROTC program. I understand you would like to offer some comments this evening. So at this time, I would invite you to the podium and give us your insight as to that program.
Thank you. My name is Steve Conaway. I'm a 26-year Brighton area resident. None of my children went to the Brighton area schools. Probably if you look at me, you can tell by my age that you needed to be 26 years backwards and they weren't in school at that time. I'm commander of VFW Post 4357, and I'm here to support the junior ROTC program that is being, may become available here at the Brighton area schools. I just want to give you a little bit of my background and experience. I served for 4 years in the United States Air Force. I was an air traffic controller, and I spent 1 year in Vietnam, one tour from 1969 to 1970. I didn't go to college, but I was lucky enough to go into the service, and my whole concept of going into the service was to try and get an education that I could use on the outside, and I was very lucky. I did. I served for 8 years with the Federal Aviation Administration, and I was at Detroit Metro when I left in 1981. I feel that the ROTC program is a very valuable program. My understanding is that about 7% of those who are in the ROTC program actually move on to the military to become officers and have their college and everything paid for by the service. But there's got to be additional individuals who may not want to go to college but have joined the ROTC program and may want to go right into the service after they get out for the same reason I did, which is to try and get an education you can use on the outside. I have many members at the American Spirit Center, where the VFW, American Legion, and AMVETS are, that have had exceptional jobs, guys in the Navy that got into submarines and had nuclear training and stuff like that. So there's some very valuable jobs that can be gained by entering the service, even if you enter as enlisted. So again, I'm here to support the junior ROTC program. I think it would be a great program for this school district. If anybody has any question, I'd be happy to answer. John?
When you left your term of service, you went right into air traffic controlling? Or did you have to go to school,
Well,
and they paid for school, or?
Well, the government wasn't hiring at the time, so it took me a year after I left the service because they had a hiring freeze on. But almost all the air traffic controllers at that time were taken from the military. That's the only place that they had experienced controllers.
So in a job situation today, what does that pay for an air traffic controller?
An individual at Detroit Metro would make $120,000 a year with the potential for $200,000 a year with overtime. So it's a great paying job. And a lot of these jobs in the nuclear industry also are very high paying jobs. And then you have the people who may go in and become military, police officers, firefighters, that'll get the training and can come out and are almost guaranteed to get a job in that career field if they want to continue. So I think that the program could be a lot more beneficial than just the 7% that is projected of the kids who go into the ROTC program.
Thank you. Thanks for taking time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conaway. We appreciate you being here, leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you for your service.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, God bless you. All right, Dr. Outlaw.
I have
superintendent report.
two main topics here, but before that, I wanted to just take a moment to recognize our athletic director, John Thompson. He was honored as the State Athletic Director of the Year. He's been with Brighton since, I believe, 2003, 2004, and has served through many changes in this district, and he has brought a lot of opportunities to many kids throughout this community. So I just wanted to give him a shout out and just say thank you for all of his hard work, his dedication. He's here 7 days a week. He's always available, and I just want to let him know how much we appreciate him. So congratulations to Mr. Thompson. I think it's a well-deserved honor for him. Next up, I'm going to ask Principal Chris McAuliffe from Hawkins to come forward. He's going to talk. He's going to do our strategic plan update. As we know, the career awareness preparation is a major part of our strategic plan. And our elementaries, they've really set up a great program to expose students to a number of careers. And I'm going to let him talk here in just a moment. But before he does, I would like to give him a shout out. We talk about 9/11 being one of those historic moments in our nation. And one of the things that happened in that day was that people from across the country rallied to help. And Mr. McAuliffe was a firefighter, paramedic. And he was part of Highland Fire Department. And he was part of a group that made the trek to help those that were in need. So I just would like to say thank you for your service. And thank you for being there to answer that call that day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with the Elementary Career Week, in the past, I think there was a robust program here where they looked at community resource and they did a lot of things. That was kind of before me. When I came to Brighton, there was still a program, but it had kind of developed into more of a assembly that really celebrated police, fire, and EMS. And so I think a lot of times as we talk to our students, we give a very narrow view of what a career path could be. So I was really happy with the strategic plan that we started looking at what a career path could look like. So I was on the subcommittee that worked on that. And I have to tell you, in those meetings, I think the most insight came from our high school students that were on the committee. A lot of the things that they brought to us to kind of open our eyes to, there's a lot of things out there, just like our veteran was saying. There's a lot of opportunities out there that don't involve maybe your traditional college path or other paths. So as we started talking, we looked at the elementary level. How can we start bringing this back to our elementary students? We didn't want it to be a one big assembly where we just throw, a few different careers at them. So what we decided on was to have each grade level look at a different career path and then kind of follow that so that one, they could get different perspectives, but two, each year it would be something else. And so we tried to follow the career paths that both the middle school and the high school will be looking at, but we also looked at expanding those to say, what other things could they look like? So that was the beginning. I will tell you that because the subcommittee, it went pretty late into the year. So May 8th is when we decided to do it. It didn't give us a lot of time for planning. So we said, let's just make it simple and valuable for this first year. So the first year, we brought in speakers. So our PTOs were really, really helpful with this. Our PTOs helped us reach out and find speakers with each career path that could come in and talk to our kids. So we have some examples of that here. We also tried to look at it in different areas. We wanted to make it so that wherever the kids went to throughout the day, they could get experiences and what a career path could look like. So an example would be when they went to our media center, they had these career boards. They could click in different spots. If they clicked up here, they could look at different jobs people do in that path. Down here, they could look at different videos of what I could be when I grow up. So it gave them, in the classroom, they're getting presentations. They go to the media center, and they also have other access to different career paths and learning more about it throughout the day. Our kindergartners wrote thank you notes to our Brighton Police, Fire, and EMS. And those were very well received. We got a lot of really nice letters back. It was really cute reading all of them. So that was a wonderful activity they did. We did bulletin boards throughout the school where we kind of challenged our teachers to come up with different bulletin boards to catch, both the kids' attention, but also we get a lot of people in our buildings that are not, our traditional students, just to give them ideas of different career paths or things they could look at. So just some examples of some of those. We had a door decorating contest where the teachers, I will tell you in my school, I had 13 brand new teachers last year. So I would say this was less of a teacher door decorating and more of a teacher's mom coming in door decorating contest. I saw a lot of the moms in helping the new teachers, so that was wonderful. Our fourth graders did the mini society, which was amazing. They got to come up with a product. They got to research it, market it, develop it. And then they actually had a day where they sold their product. Very happy Dr. Outlaw came in, helped me spend some money that day. I'm sure everything he bought, he still has on his desk using it. I have to tell you, I have to keep it all on my desk because they do come and ask, like, where's that puffy little fuzzball that I bought? And I make sure that they're right there. And so here's some examples. I love it. If you look, they're in their little suits. They were so excited to sell their products. They were really good at trying to get us to their booths and market their products. Some of the feedback we got afterwards, looking at a different time of year, we looked at maybe February or earlier in the year, so that we could start at the beginning of the year planning, but also it wasn't in that crazy end of the year period. The teachers said they wanted some opportunities for field trips that were just based around their career path. So we looked at that. We looked at grade level assemblies, again, that followed their career path. More time to plan, as I mentioned. They really liked having the career, having it, gauge to their grade level so that each grade level had a different focus. Because then as a teacher, you don't get that the next year. Like, I've already done that. I already seen that. I already heard this. And then they liked just not having one big assembly and celebrating it in one day. They felt like it had more meaning when we spread it out throughout the week and gave them different opportunities. So that's what we did. This year, the goal would be to make it bigger. Last year, I just kept telling all the principals, let's just try to do something this year. And then next year, we can have more time to plan. So our PTOs are very involved already this year. And our goal would be to take this to the next step and make it a little bigger and better. So thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Mr. McCall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McAuliffe. Really excited about the work that everybody's doing on that. Our strategic plan is really coming together. The career focus is one of many aspects of it, and we'll continue to do updates each board meeting. But thank you so much for being here. The next topic here, this was a request from our executive committee, and I'm going to pull up one of the initiatives this year that we're looking at is trying to make some improvements to our fundraising as a district. And how we do it, some of the rules around that, some of our policy around that. And I'm just going to give a quick update, and then if board members want to weigh in, they can at that point here. We have a work group internally. We have our Director of Accounting, Elizabeth Patterson, and our former CFO, Mike Engelter. They were instrumental at the beginning of this. I was part of it, and then Ms. Reed, Dr. Krebs, and Ms. Marks are all part of that group as well. We've been working on this for several months, trying to do some good things here. And a sidebar on this, I'm going to introduce our new CFO, Dave Jones, over here. He's not officially with the district yet, but he's been nice enough to join us, and so we appreciate him being here very much. And we'll have a chance to get to know him at that next meeting. So the board had a resolution in April charging us to work on improving process and the way that we work with money and to make sure that our money collection is as safe as possible as a district here. So we looked at a number of areas of study. We started off, we did an inventory of all current fundraising that was going on across the district, and who was fundraising, why, what were they, spending, fundraising dollars on. We looked at current financial safeguards and some of the best practices that we were using across the district. We looked at board policy, and we also had questions that we ran through legal counsel about a variety of topics as we explored this topic of fundraising. We talked philosophical about fundraising, what should be fundraised for, and what are things that we really should be providing as a school district. We looked specifically at some of the financial safeguards and ways that we might be able to improve in that area, particularly around the area of using cash as a district and what some of those alternatives might be as a district. And then as we came closer to the end of our, this phase of the work, we talked about how do we operationalize this policy? How do we make it easy so that people can easily apply and that it's very transparent as well? So there's basically 3 steps that exist now when it comes to district fundraising. And this applies to any of our fiduciary accounts here within the district. Number 1 is policy 5501. Board policy there requires that any fundraiser done in the school district has to be approved. That's board policy. So first layer of that approval will be done either by the building principal or by the athletic director. And then the final approval will come from the business office, where the business office will make sure that all of the financial process and everything's appropriate. We have created a simple way to do this. We've created an electronic form that we are piloting, that we have rolled out. It's actually on our district website now. It's a Google form. You fill in your information. There's certain questions that you have to answer. And then when you hit submit, it's immediately routed to your supervisor. If I'm at Hawkins, it would be routed directly to Mr. McCullough. And then if it's something that he approves, then it would be routed to the business office. And then the final thing that we decided, and again, this is a pilot at this point, but we think this is important, is that we wanted to have a transparency spot where we could have a list of all of our approved fundraisers in the district. So we talked about this fundraiser, it goes through, let's say it's a Hawkins fundraiser, Mr. McAuliffe approves it, the business office says yes, it's an appropriate reason, and all of the financial ways of getting that money are all appropriate and sign off on it. Then it will be placed on a Google sheet that is, again, on that website. So those are the 3 steps that are that we're going to be using, at least in this initial phase here. We're not done because 1, this is a pilot. So we're going to be looking to see every time we make a step forward, we have another question. So this work's going to continue. We're going to continue to look at fundraising as a district. We have some questions around how do we operationalize some of these things that we'd like to do with some of these large scale fundraisers that we do as a district, things like Pink Week and Senior Survivor that involve many people. So we have to have some further conversation about those. Policy committee is going to look at our policies just to make sure that everything is aligned as a district. We'll spend a little time on that. One of the good suggestions that we had last time was creating a guidance document for our approvers so that the principles they're very consistent across buildings, some of the philosophical things that might come from our board here. And that's the last piece, is we need to have some further discussion about some of the different types of fundraisers that are out there as a school district. So the work's going to continue. I think we've made some really good first steps here. We've rolled this out to staff, video process, and the pilot is underway. So questions, comments, anything for us as a team?
Mr. Conley?
Dr. Hollis, so do you think we will work Pink Week into this kind of a program? For now, they're going to run like they did last year, right? Because we're not ready.
Yeah, correct. They were already underway before this was rolled out. Some of the changes that I would see with something like Pink Week would be reducing the amount of cash and shifting to some more transparent and cashless ways of exchanging money.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause it's a great program, and we don't want to do anything to slow it down.
Absolutely. We don't want to interfere, but there's some things we could do to make the financial transactions safer.
Thank you.
Storm?
I have a few questions, Dr. Alla. First, this is great for the folks that were part of the committee that worked on this. I just want to commend the work that has gone into it. Many on the board and perhaps in the public are aware I have a number of children in our district. And so this is something that affects our family very regularly throughout the school year and even during the summer. As far as the policy, the new policy, when will it be effective? Like what date?
It was effective September 9th. So Friday, we rolled it out officially to staff. So it is now in place.
Okay, so September 9th is the effective date?
Correct. The policy's been in place since November of 2022, when you transitioned to Troon. The policy that it has to be approved, but the operationalized system of doing the Google form, the electronic form, that started on Friday officially.
And will some of this flow back to the policy committee then to be enshrined in our district policy so it's captured there?
Mrs. Marks or Ms. Reed, do you want to share anything on
I
that?
apologize. I was answering a question from Mr. Conley. What was your concern?
So as the work of the committee progresses, do you expect that the output, the recommendations will ultimately make their way back to our policy committee to be enshrined in the policy of the district?
Absolutely. I think some of what we have done already can be included in the policy manual, since we have this process in place, referring to the district's process and our commitment to posting approved fundraisers on the district website is something that I was going to recommend at our next policy committee that we include in the policy manual. But I'm sure that's not the only place that we can look at providing additional buttresses for this important transparency for the community.
Thank you. As far as the ability to opt out, do students, parents in this district have the ability to opt out of fundraising where they could essentially sign a form that gets submitted to BAS and their child would not need to be approached for fundraising if they so desired?
Yeah, we haven't talked about that, but maybe that's something we could talk about at our next policy meeting. Maybe we could talk that through. There are people that do not fundraise. I mean, we have students with different needs. We have students that, families are in different positions. For example, there's a lot of families that, like, if they're going to sell the gift cards, that might make a donation, but say, I don't really want my child to go door to door. So yeah, I think there are modifications to that, but maybe we should talk about that more if that's okay at that policy
Yeah, I think
meeting.
in some of our written correspondence via email, one of the things that came up, and I'd like to just share this with the public, is that there were no parents that complained about any fundraising related activity within Brighton area schools, submitted complaints, filed complaints. And so, I think it's important that the administration is aware that there's a very, very strong implied message from most of at least the athletic programs that while it's voluntary, it's a head nod and a acknowledgement that it's voluntary. You don't need to participate, but you really do need to participate. And there's quite a bit of pressure on a lot of people to be part of these fundraising activities. Sends kids out knocking on doors multiple times a year, so neighbors become very familiar with children who are affiliated with fundraising activity. And I shared at a prior board meeting, but for those that weren't there, I have a 12-year-old son who was asked to go door to door, and unbeknownst to me, they had a standard card for fundraising where he scanned a QR code. The person who wants to donate, the neighbor, scans a QR code, which prompts the neighbor, the adult, to ask the juvenile child for personal information that records the fundraising that's happening for that particular person. So this is very, very important. And I'm really, really happy to see that we're making progress as a district and everyone is working in a collaborative manner to move this forward. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if I could just build off of that, I think that's one of the aspects that the ad hoc committee is still looking to work on, building up a better, more complete understanding as a district of the different methods that folks are using for fundraisers on behalf of the district, and then building that guidance on what we feel comfortable with, what types of fundraising methodologies do we as a district want to approve. So we've got some of that built into the form. I know Dr. Outlaw sent it around for the board. There are some guidelines and directions built into the form already that the committee felt comfortable with. But I think as we get used to this process, we'll build upon that and get more deeply into the different types of fundraisers that folks are using and what are the pros and cons of those, and do we want to continue them?
Thank you.
So what happens with, let's take a PTO organization that's a nonprofit that doesn't have to disclose any financial information because of being a nonprofit, but they are advertising that they're raising money for Hilton Elementary School, right? That's our school. They're using that as the device to raise money. The donations are going to the PTO. But again, they're using Brighton area schools, the school's name, everything that goes with the schools. But again, they're exempt from any of this. Is that correct?
There is 501c3s, such as the PTOs or booster clubs, would fill this form out. At the beginning of the form, it will ask what your role is with the district. A PTO or a 501c3, they have their own auditing, their own rules as being a 501c3. So they are separate. So it's almost more like a building use or a request to do a fundraiser within the building. But PTOs are extremely important, and they're our partners. And so our booster clubs, and they're doing stuff, for our schools every single day. So there is going to be some disclosure here, but we do not have jurisdiction over the finances as part of a 501c3. They would have their own reporting and accounting that they would have to do as
Well,
part
I
of that.
understand that, but again, my question is, are they exempt from this?
No.
They need to fill out the form.
So all they'll need to do is fill out the form.
Fill out the form and be approved to do fundraising that would be on school grounds or at a school event.
Right.
Okay, and then will any of this stuff come back? Let's say Pink Week for an example.
Right.
Will that give an accounting of the amount of money that was collected and those kinds of things on this spreadsheet that's going to be published or made to the public? So that'll have all the accounting, the money. Will that have people who contributed in some form, written form, with names of contributors?
No, I think our intention was total,
Okay. And-
So this,
an end date, so that you know how long the fundraiser was for.
And then one more question, please. If a parent is approached with a fundraising, who do they go to validate it if they don't see it on the website, or if they don't see it, if it's not up by that time? Who do they contact? What number do they call, or who do they talk to ask if it's legitimate or not?
yeah, I'd contact your building principal. If it's an athletic program, contact the athletic department.
Okay.
So this form that I've pulled up here is the transparency form. This is to get us started. We've actually seen one from another district that might be something we want to aspire to do. That is pretty nice. But for example, our director of accounting is the final approval. So when she approves it, she's going to immediately add it to the list. That's our process. So it doesn't have to go to a separate person. There's no lag time. So it's approved, right on the list. So that's what we're looking at doing. This, again, this is right on the webpage.
So this will be publicly available for
It-
anybody that wants to look and see what was approved, what was the purpose of the fundraising, because not all of our children can remember that information when they come home as well. And it will give you the final information on how much was collected during the fundraiser. So we can see that as a community.
Can you show us like with the PTO booster, that one's a little different with their, so what it's going to be available?
Yeah, theirs is a little different. We wouldn't be listing how much they make or anything because that's, again, outside of our jurisdiction. But we would put their events up here, what the purpose is, and then when their fundraiser is going to take place. And then if it's a 501c3 that's outside of a PTO or a booster, let's say hypothetically, let's say that we wanted to do something with United Way and it was approved, it would go on this form here. So we have 3 different types of groups that we have for transparency to start off with.
And this is only for cash. This isn't food drives. This isn't
Now, this is all
goods
fundraising.
of any sorts. This is only cash.
No, this is all fundraising that takes place. There's Sorry, folks, if you can't see that completely, but there's different types of groups here, but I'm just gonna do one here just to get you there. So, sorry. Let me just,
Google Forms, imagine that.
all right. We listen. Okay, so information about, I'm gonna see if I can make that bigger there for you. Okay, responsible people, group name, purpose. This is where the routing logic goes with the form. You know, if you click Scranton, it will automatically, when you do the submit form, it will automatically go to the principal at Scranton. So that's where all the routing's built in. Nick Castile did a great job of helping us operationalize that. So thank you, Nick. Start date, end date of the fundraising amount expected. But then there's the process that you're going to use for collecting money. So PayPal, Square, or a district, we're looking at some other ones to try to find other options for electronic payment. If it's cash, let's say I click cash. If I use cash, there's a separate form that you have to go to that shares the rules for cash. I'm just going to go ahead and do it right now, just so you can see it. And I'm just going to hit, oops, sorry. These are all required. I'm not going to do it here in front of everybody, but it takes you to a list and it has all the rules for cash. And then you have to sign off that you understand those rules and who's responsible for that. So it can be cash, but it's also, if I use PayPal or any of these other forms of payment. We also have donations of goods and services is one of the things that we had on there that we thought was important to list as well. So again, this is a start. There's going to be things in this that are going to have to be tweaked, but I think we're in a good spot. And again, I really appreciate the team. Mr. Jones was able to be there for our last meeting, and I know he has some additional ideas. So this is a good first step, and we're going to keep working on it. So, all right. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Allah. And also, yes, thank you to everyone on the committee for all of your hard work. It's very impressive. All right. That concludes the superintendent report portion of the agenda and moves us to the call to the public. This is the time this evening. If there's anyone who would like to address the board, this is your opportunity to do so. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. We will be keeping track of the time. When there is 30 seconds left in your allotted time, Ms. Marks will hold up a yellow card to indicate that you have 30 seconds left. When your 3 minutes is up, she will hold up a red card, and that will be the conclusion of the allotted time. Our protocol is to fill out, there's a table at the rear of the room with cards. We ask that you fill out a card. There's information to be checked off and then place it in the box. I will then call the names, and when your name is called, you can come to the podium and address the board accordingly. All right, the first one is Maureen Theodore. And Kelly Uphouse will be next.
Hi, I'm Maureen Theodore, a resident of Brighton, and I know these meetings are controversial and sometimes get heated, but not a lot of positive things are said. I know all you guys work really hard for our schools, and I really want to give a shout out to Mr. McAuliffe. He has made our experience at Hawkins absolutely wonderful. He really is a gem. His energy every day, those kids absolutely adore him. He's just wonderful, and I wanted his bosses to hear how great he is because he doesn't get enough appreciation, but everyone there is excited to see him, and he always responds immediately. He's been great all these years, and I'm sad we're leaving. This is our last year there. And then also, too, I just wanted to give a shout out to all the staff at Hawkins, from the janitors to the lunch ladies to the office staff. Everyone there is great. The teachers are amazing. Every single one of those teachers has been such a great experience for us there. And yeah, all the way down to the custodians. Those two guys are amazing, and they clean up all of our kids' messes. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Hawkins and especially Mr. McAuliffe. Thank you.
Thank you. And after Ms. Uphouse will be Gil Henderson.
Hi, Board. Thank you for being here. About a month ago, I sent the board an email talking about digitization of our private information. I received really no response, and that was a little bit disheartening. During the 2020-2021 school year, our kids were tracked and traced according to COVID. That then turned into $41,000 in payments in August of 2022 to a company called Illuminate Education. They're a cloud-based data system that helps with eClimber and allows districts to manage both academic and behavioral data of our students. If you go through and look, they partner with over 600 different companies, and that is third-party sharing of our children. The last 2 years, we have had to apply online to register our kids with private health information and private family information on top of using PayPal to pay for our students' t-shirts and whatever else the school district has us use PayPal for. I'm a small business. I have had PayPal and I was data breached and I lost a large chunk of my private information due to PayPal. Just last week, I used Square up until this point, and Square just had a large data breach that shut down my servers for 24 hours. And in the email I sent you guys, I also let you know that there was a school district less than 100 miles from us that MLive said only was shut down for 4 days, but after speaking with teachers in the school districts, it shut down all of Jackson County schools, it shut down all of Hillsdale schools, and it was for a week. The teachers that accessed their accounts through the school districts had ransomware put on their home computers and their personal laptops. Their personal information was stolen. The children's information was stolen. And I'm looking through this. They're tracking, monitoring, and tying program evaluations across the board with these programs that we're putting our children into. Also, one of the big red flags for me, we were told in 2022 that there was no equity, inclusion, DEI going on in our schools. However, Illuminate Education, which helps our teachers to be able to bring all the grades of the children into one streamline and help them identify where kids need help, which is wonderful. That's a wonderful system. This group is funded and owned by a group called LLR Partners. They are a diversity and action initiative group. This initiative group highlights the commitments of GP and LPs and the ESG scores for these systems that our schools are tying to. So my question is there a way, because I did not give you permission to share my information with third parties, I am forced to register my child online or else I cannot register my child. What are you going to do if there's a data breach? What are you going to do if my child's information is being used by somebody in another country or another state to keep us safe? This is not okay. And I can no longer now drop my kid off with a $10 bill at a football game and say, have fun, honey, because I cash budget for any extras we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Henderson, you are up next, sir, and then Jason Ringett will be next.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I'm a 35-year-old resident that's 88 years old. And at one time, I worked for this school district at Maltby Middle School as a substitute assistant principal on 2 occasions. Later on, I worked as a principal at Hilton for a semester. And the administrative team at central office at that time made every effort to make my job enjoyable as a sub. They would regularly check in on me, see how things going. You need anything? Anyway, I walked away from those 3 experiences in love with this district. Now, fast forward to a newspaper article, I don't know, 10 days ago, that left me irritated. It's the 4th dysfunctional Board of Education, in my opinion, that I've been around. One in my hometown where I started teaching, one in Farmington when we were discussing sex education back in 1970, and one when Howell was firing superintendents about every 6 months. And then now, I am disturbed by it. It can be remedied, has to be. It's embarrassing as a resident of this town that A1 people are leaving because of board conduct, so it says. It's uncalled for and ought to stop. I know it can stop because during my lifetime, I was mayor of Novi. Politics was my hobby back in the day, along with being a principal in Farmington. And the city council in Novi never, ever spoke ill of anybody at the table or in the audience. I had one taxpayer get out of line one day. I think he might have been drunk. And I let him talk as long as he wanted, make all the dumb statements he wanted. And then when he got done, I had a little chat with him in public. When I was done, he stood back up and apologized to me in front of about 50 of his friends, neighbors. And I'll never forget that. And then I'm reminded when I retired or resigned from the Novi Board of Education a few years later, I read my resignation letter to the board, not because I didn't like the job. I loved the job. I just had too many years of a lot of stuff in education. So I resigned. My wife said, "You better start going to meetings." I said, "No, I better quit." Anyway, when I got done reading my resignation letter, I got one of the greatest compliments I ever had, and I didn't make $1 out of it. Never forget it. A board member said, "Well, we've lost the conscience of this board." And about that time, I retired from teaching, which was over 30 years ago. And one of my ex-teachers who had worked for me in 2 or 3 schools that I knew well, after I had retired, he gave me the second greatest compliment that I would hope all of you can say when you are no longer in public life. He said, "Gil, whenever I walked into a meeting and saw that you were chairing it, I breathed a sigh of relief because I knew I was safe." Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions or want to talk to me sometime, I'm always available.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. After Jenny Gatt will be Jenny Soboleski.
Heavenly Father, in Jesus' name, let your Holy Spirit fill this room, soften everyone's hearts. Bless the school board with wisdom and discernment. It's time that we start open up our school board meetings with prayer, giving praise and glory to God and blessing our schools. I'd like to say to the school board members, thank you, members, for the new Scranton entrance and parking lot. Rumblings of another COVID 2.0 variant hysteria, just like 2021, is all about stealing another election, just like they did in 2022 and now in 2024. Is COVID real? Absolutely. It's no different than a deadly flu virus. Not one kid died from COVID in Livingston County schools in 2022. People were denied ivermectin HCQ, which actually was a cure, because with ivermectin HCQ, you could not declare a state of emergency, just like 2021. Both of these drugs are very effective therapeutics. This is why they denied it so heavily. In April 21, the state of emergency mandate stopped in Michigan. The Livingston County's health department was giving out mandates, guidances, recommendations to Livingston County superintendents, board members, who forced kids to wear face masks and healthy quarantines in our schools, children to stay home who were not even sick for the school year 21-2022, which violates our children's U.S. constitutional rights, violating their rights under the 1st, 4th, 5th, 9th, 14th Amendments, the Guarantee Clause, federal statutes and regulations, civil rights, state laws, federal laws, and their due process to a public education forcing illegal mask mandates and healthy quarantines in Livingston County schools. How much further is Livingston County school kids falling behind in their education due to reckless, illegal, healthy quarantines and mask mandates? With no peer-reviewed, replicated scientific studies back up the reckless actions to show that mask and healthy quarantines work. Pushing on to children to wear masks that has caused some of the kids suffering depression, isolation, physical, psychological, sociological harm to our children, impose pain, suffering, humiliation on students, inhibited their speech, damaged their health, and some kids to starve because there are only 2 meals, Monday through Friday, for their meals at school. All these people who got COVID wrong, COVID vaccines have deadly spike proteins. People who took the COVID vaccines were the ones spreading and shedding the deadly spike proteins, infecting other people with COVID virus. COVID vaccines have caused sudden deaths within the first 30 days, irreversible side effects, health syndromes, cardiac arrest, major blood clots, and people are dying because of the deadly spike proteins. Hospital protocols are what killed COVID patients. It wasn't COVID. By giving them remdesivir that shuts down the kidneys, drowning them with IV fluids, their kidneys no longer work, sedating them, giving them a low-calorie diet so they will not fight to stay alive, intubating people which damage their lungs is what actually killed people. I have submitted a FOIA request to Heartland Schools and 2 of them to Livingston County Health Department requesting all medical peer-reviewed scientific replicated studies, evidence showing masks stop kids and adults from transferring the COVID virus to each other by wearing masks. Guess what? They have no evidence. I sent y'all an email showing you proof that the health department cannot back up the reckless actions. Any board member wanting to mask our kids up for the 23-2024 school year, which is child abuse, just resign now. God bless y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. After Ms. Sobolewski will be Julia McBride.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jenny Sobolewski, and we are actually a family from the Pinckney School District, but our whole life is Brighton. I wear many hats in the Brighton School District. I am a mom to 3 Roadrunners, 1 Mobile pup, and a future Roadrunner. And so we have a full house just chock full of Brighton pride. I also am a 3rd grade teacher at Spencer Elementary. This is my 10th year with Brighton area schools, teaching in the elementary level. And my final, maybe not final, there's probably more hats that I haven't thought of, but I am also the vice president of the elementary level in our Brighton Education Association, our teacher union. And I've read some bad or questionable press lately about our district, and I'm here to assure you there is 98% amazing in Brighton. So I wanted to share some things that have been awesome about Brighton, wearing all of my hats that I just mentioned. As a mom, I have a kindergartner, 2nd grader, 4th grader, and 6th grader in the district, and their teachers go above and beyond for them every single day. My kids are learning not only the academics, but they're learning empathy. They're learning how to be very cool, contributing humans in their own school community. And so I couldn't thank the teachers who are taking good care of my students enough, my own children, parenting them while I am doing my job during the day and wearing that hat of teacher. As a 3rd grade teacher, I want to speak to some of the programs that we have in Brighton area schools, like what Mr. McCullough was talking about. The Career Awareness Week last year, our 3rd graders were exposed to a person who created prosthetics, and they got to touch the tail of Winter the dolphin. So if you know the story, A Dolphin Tale, the company that designed that has a base in Grand Rapids. And one of our teachers' daughter-in-laws works for the company. And the students were fascinated by seeing this is where their STEAM, as 3rd grader, their STEAM career path could take them, is designing prosthetic tails for dolphins. And so what a cool idea for our district to be showing kids all the opportunities they have. I don't know many 3rd graders who'd be like, and when I grow up, I want to design prosthetic parts for animals. And so it was a very cool opportunity. I also, as a teacher at Spencer, we are welcoming our 3rd principal in 3 years. And we have, we've really become a family through all of that. Miss Boyd is a phenomenal, well-respected member of the Brighton area schools. She came to us having already developed a relationship of trust and excellence. And so we're going to do great things at Spencer, even with so much change, walls and all. We're going to do great things at Spencer. And then finally, my hat as a union member in the district, our union is different from some of the boogeyman unions that you might know about. And I just want you to know that we're constantly working for the best of the kids, just like you guys are. And so I want to thank our community and our board for all the hard work, and just know we're doing awesome things no matter what you read in the paper. Thank you.
Thank you. After Julie McBride will be Gray Balig? Balig.
Yeah, hi. My name is Julia McBride. I have 3 daughters in the district, kindergarten, 3rd grade, and 10th grade. I graduated from here in 2000. My husband graduated from here in 1999. My brother graduated here about the same time Dr. Outlaw did, maybe even played on the same soccer field as him. I too, as Mr. Anderson, didn't feel good about the recent press when I read it. I'm going to get emotional. I'm not going to apologize for it. But frankly, I work in a neighboring district. I'm a school leader myself. And I have this distinct privilege of working in a community where the board works in partnership with us, where the board works in partnership with our superintendent, where they don't ask passive-aggressive questions that put him on the spot in front of the public. This is supposed to be a collaborative partnership that works in service of the outcomes for our kids. You set the ceiling for what you can expect from the adults in this district, and therefore what we can expect from our kids in this district. Think about that. I need my kids' teachers to be able to focus on helping them grow, on helping my 3rd grader grow her love for and confidence in reading, which she's not quite there yet. I don't need them fearful of being chastised and assuming the worst intentions from the top about what the teachers are doing every day and what their school leaders are showing up to do to care for those teachers so that they can be their best for my children, my babies, that I put them in the care of this district for 13 years of their lives. So I ask you with all of my heart to please find a path to a healthier climate on this board for the good of this community so that the Brighton difference is something I can feel proud of, even when I'm sitting around the table of my neighboring district that I'm also proud of. So it's not mocked by our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. After Mr. Bollig, this is the last card. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board who hasn't done so yet? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Gray Baylog. I'm representing Image 360, concerning the security film project that's up for bid this evening. I have 25 years experience. I hold 3 master certifications from 3 different manufacturers. And one of the things I wanted to find out, and I'm not sure if this is the course to do, but if you guys had any lingering questions from a technical side when we're discussing security film, the attachments, and what it can do for entry denial. Now, is this a place where you guys are allowed to dialogue or not? This is my first time up.
No, so during the call to the public, it's just the opportunity for the public to address the board. We are going to have the security investments on later on in the agenda. There will be some questions that will likely arise. It's not up for action this evening. It's the opportunity for us to discuss it at that point.
I got 25 years experience, so I'm here to answer any questions you guys might have.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, that concludes the call to the public portion of the agenda and moves us to the for action portion. Item A, regular meeting minutes of August 14, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. Item B, the board workshop meeting minutes of August 28, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Trombley, supported by Mr. Conley. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. Moves us to item C, new hire Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Dr. Outlaw.
Pleased to recommend Jacob Anastasov to become Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources and Legal Affairs for the Brighton area schools. Mr. Anastasov is currently Assistant Superintendent for the Taylor School District. He's a product of the University of Michigan, was a former biology math teacher, has a long history in education, being assistant principal, and has worked his way through central office. Very strong references, and was very well respected by the members of the committee through the phases. And we're happy to present it to you tonight. I think it'll be an outstanding addition to the team.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the hiring of Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Jacob Anastasov?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. And congratulations to Mr. Anastasov. We look forward to the rest of us meeting him and having us join the district. We're excited for him to join the district, and we're looking forward to the great things that he will add with his talents. Mr. Jones, we haven't had an opportunity to recognize you. Thank you for being here this evening, even though you haven't officially started, and want to welcome you to the district as well. And we're very excited for you to join us in the central office, and look forward to the great asset that you will be to our district.
Thank you. And I'm very excited to be here. Look forward to doing a lot of good work. And let me just throw in a side note. You hired a good one.
That's what we've heard.
We've been cabinet together for the last 3 years, so we've been through the wars. So you got a good one.
Well, fantastic. We look forward to your partnership. All right. That concludes the for action portion of the agenda and moves us to the for future action portion. Item A, the Troon annual policy updates.
Yep,
Ms.
I'll
Reed,
take
you
that
want
one.
to take that one?
The policy committee went through these about a month ago. This package that you have in item A for future action is a collection of policy updates that Troon, as the provider of our policy book, had recommended based on changes in law, things that have come up in litigation over the last year, and just general improvements that they recommended that we make. At the committee level, these are the ones that we thought looked good, didn't have any concerns at how they would apply in our district. We didn't make any changes to what Troon had recommended. There are still a couple of policies that they had proposed, that Troon had proposed as optional, that the committee chose not to send to the board. I think you've seen that in the committee minutes from our last meeting. And then there's one still remaining that Troon had proposed some changes to that we have tabled for our next committee meeting. But I think these, most of the changes that you see in this package are updates to statutory sites because things moved around in the Michigan code. Nothing really significant from a substantive standpoint, or at least that was the committee's impression. Obviously, you've got another month to look through it and decide whether you have any questions or concerns so that we can get those over to Troon and get them answered. They did provide us with some general information about this package that we saw at the committee level. I think that would have been included in our committee minutes. I can't remember if it was there. If not, if you've got any questions, Dr. Outlaw can get that for you. And as always, if you have any concerns or suggestions for changes, send them on over.
I thought in our executive committee that we possibly were just going to get a couple page summary with
That's the front, those first two pages right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
The summary's there.
I just looked at the backup and
Yeah.
so, okay.
Yeah, no, I think the summary is very helpful. I
Yeah.
appreciate, receiving
Yep.
that because, absolutely.
So is this gonna be like the annual, how often do you get these? Is it every 6 months? Or is it as needed, or?
I believe that this is going to be once a year with Troon. I believe is what they do. I know Neola was a little bit more
Neola was
frequent,
different. I
but
mean,
I
I
think
know
it's
that we were
once a
getting them.
year is what I believe, unless it's something that's pressing. If something does change midstream, they probably would do a little bit more frequent.
Well, yeah, I mean, I believe that the federal government is set to promulgate their new Title IX regulations next month. So my guess is that they're probably not going to wait a year. They're probably going to need to address that. as the courts decide cases that affect school districts, there's sometimes a need to then address policy changes to respond to rulings by the courts. So, yeah. Mhm. All right, any other questions? Mr. Conley?
Yeah, Mr. Reed, is there anything really different than our other bylaws that we switched over? Is it pretty common? Or did you compare them to what we had for all those years?
You know what, for this review, we did not compare them to what we had with Neola. As you'll see, if you look through that summary, most of these are minor revisions to existing things that the board had just approved.
Already approved.
Right. The only new one is section 4228. Churn added that one in response to recent litigation, if my memory is correct.
Expectation of privacy. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No? All right. That moves us to item B, the MASB delegates. This is, we are, as a member of the MASB, we are also a voting member. So the MASB has an annual conference at which they adopt any changes to their policies or bylaws. And as a voting member, we are allowed to have a delegate present to vote on behalf of the district for any proposed changes to the policies or bylaws of MASB. So we are to designate a delegate and an alternate. We have to do that by Friday, August 27th. The annual meeting for MASB is Thursday, November 9th at 7 p.m. at the Lansing Center in Lansing. So if anybody's interested, we just have to.
I would be interested in that.
Okay. And then if anyone's interested in being an alternate to Dr. Krebs, I can be an alternate. That's fine. So next, at the next meeting, we'll have the, for action is Dr. Krebs designated as the delegate and myself as the alternate. All right, that moves us to item C, JROTC. Mr. Conley, are you going to tackle?
We've got some forward movement, and we have on the 18th coming up for the Livingston County Board of Commissioners has $150,000, I would say, funding source for us to launch an NJROTC, which actually would be an NNDCC, which would be a self-funded program. So the difference is let's say a JROTC program at the high school level is funded by the group, be it the Army, Navy, Air Force. An NNDCC program is funded by the school itself, which we've talked about a few times. This funding source will be a one-time only dollar source, should they approve it on the 18th. It's $150,000. Last week, a gentleman came out to meet us from Belleville High School who started an NJROTC, but the same way that we're doing it, NNDCC, in 2019. And he was a principal, a coach, principal, and the start of this program. His program now ranks as the highest in several states, but very possibly the highest in the country. So he made time for us last week. He came out with, I met with Jim Darga, Dr. Darga, our principal, Matt Evans, and myself. And he reviewed his course of action when he started in 2019 through today. And his course led him to start with one instructor and low number of students, began his program, rolled it out. In 2023-24 school year, he now has the #1 program and also fully funded by the Navy this year. So he did. And so he spelled it out, and then he contacted us, it could have been today. He's going to provide uniforms to us, rifles, and a lot of other supplies, which cost nothing to the district at that point, which then would allow the money that the county is going to provide, should they vote it in, which I believe they will, would get us a good start, which would let that money spread out even longer. So that's what I've learned so far, and it's been interesting. We have our best program to date that it looks like will work with us is the Navy. I don't think There's Dr. Mosier. Has the Army,
Heard anything yet?
the Army has not returned a call.
They did a few years ago when we applied, but nothing new.
Okay. Well, the Navy called me. I don't know if they called you, but they called and they left word, and they had also spoken to a petty officer, and the comment from the Navy in Illinois and the people in charge of their the NNDCC programs as well as the NJROTC is that come this according to our application date was that we had to have it in a certain date. It was received by a certain date, but it wasn't soon enough for them. So what we looked at this year, I guess in October, and then awarded in December to Brighton area schools from the Navy. And that apparently was semi-guaranteed, but until you see it in writing, you don't know. And they have 60 slots available for their self-funded program. Currently, the Navy does. And they didn't see any reason, according to the documents I have from the Navy, that there'd be any reason that Brighton wouldn't be approved for that. The gentleman from Belleville that came out last week to visit with us did tour our school, looked at the facilities, looked at what we had to offer, including the weight room. He really liked that. And it looks very positive there. And he, it appears, will also help us in any way possible that he could to get this program off the ground. So it's nice. It's really, it's almost an unbelievable relationship that's forming, because here you have a gentleman that started a program from scratch and now leads the charge in potentially the best program there is anywhere in our country. So it's kind of neat. And he is himself not a veteran. He's an educator. And he was able to hire it was a gunny sergeant from the Marine Corps, and the Navy had sent the gunny sergeant to, I guess, San Diego, did a little Navy training, and this Marine came in and has run their program. So pretty exciting. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question. From a staffing standpoint, considering, and I believe the note that came out said that it does not need to be a 2-hour block, right? So that seems like positive to me, that it
Correct.
could just
1
be a
hour.
1 hour, right?
Correct.
So from a scheduling standpoint, that makes it a lot more flexible. Does the Navy help provide, I mean, because we're talking about a very limited opportunity for someone then if it's a 1 hour, potentially that first year to be an instructor. Is there shared option with other schools, or how does that work? Do you know from a staffing
What
standpoint?
he did, and that I can't answer. I can tell you that they paid, it was $10,000, I think, per hour. Something to that effect. It was a $60,000 contract with his instructor for a 6-period day. That's how they started it. And what happened is that because I'll get my numbers right, NNDCC program is funded by our school, it falls under a little different regulation than the actual Navy funded program. So he ran his program with one instructor, interviewed his instructors, found the one he thought would get it done, and ran it with one, and then built it from there. It's up to the person you hire if they're willing to take less money at the start, or if you have to jump in with both feet. And I would recommend, again, we'll have more conversations, and this gentleman's available at any point to help us in this buildup and meet us and come in and do a presentation. I'm sure if we give him some notice, I asked about today, but I only gave him a couple days notice. I don't think that was going to be enough to do it, because I just met him last week. But it's just a great success story. And I think it's the kind of thing that we're interested in here as well for any program we're going to be involved in. And like I said, I can get behind it. And tonight we have a guest, Major Miller, retired. It's a Brighton High School graduate sitting right there. And he, in college, I believe, was JROTC, correct? Or regular ROTC?
JROTC in college.
In college. So when you left Brighton High School. So what year did you start that for you?
I graduated Brighton High School in '88, and then I went to Western Michigan right out of high school, but did not fare well. And I worked at construction for a couple of years, and I joined the Army simply for the college money, and got my college money, went to Colorado State, and decided that Army thing was not too bad, and I was good at it, so I went to talk to the ROTC guys, and they gave me a scholarship. And I got my bachelor's degree in 3 years. I did 2 years of school in 1 year so that I could graduate in time to get into flight school. Went in as an aviator, did 20 years. They paid for my master's degree. It was just a great opportunity. The Army and all the military services, as civilians don't have really a clue what we do, but every single job that is in the civilian sector is in the military because we are self-sustaining. So we have nurses, doctors, dentists, engineers, carpenters, air traffic controllers, pilots, garbage disposal, water purification, you name it. It is a great opportunity for kids. Even if they're not going to make it a career, there's no better way to get paid for your school than an ROTC scholarship, or better yet, to go to one of the like West Point or Annapolis, which are considered Ivy League schools. With the price of schools these days, I mean, it's $25,000, $30,000 a year to send your kid to 1 year of school. And I taught ROTC, junior ROTC in Detroit. When I got out, I decided to teach a year, sort of give back. And I taught a year down at Mumford High School in 2017-18. And the Army provides all of the curriculum, all of the uniforms, the drill rifles. They pay for all the excursions, the drilling ceremony, coaching, the coaches paying extra for coaches and that kind of stuff. It was a good program. I think Brighton would benefit from it, even if, like the first gentleman said, even if kids decided not to make it a career, just getting insight into what the military does, I think is a valuable thing for every American.
Thank you for your service, Mike. Appreciate it. Mike's modest, but he flew Apache helicopters for us, and his tour took him all over the world, and did quite a job for us. 20 years. So appreciate you coming in tonight.
Yep.
And your service to our country. And like I said, I believe also the same. I think it'll be very valuable. And again, it may not be for everyone, but that's what we're here for. We have a collective ability to look at what's good. And I think that the representation from it, I know for certain Howell's success in the last decade has been phenomenal with the Air Force program. And I believe Brighton can parallel that, and with the right motives and everything behind it, which we all would have. Any recommendations? Should the board decide to go forward, what would you recommend to them if the Navy signs?
I think you're on course. For a school district as privileged as ours, it's hard to jump right into a funded program because it's normally geared towards schools that don't have the money, that they want to help them out and give them the funded programs. But like you said, once you start a funded program and they see how successful it is, they will quickly pick up the tab on that.
That's what I was told from Illinois, from their chief. They said that.
He's not the first one that's done it. That's the way school districts like this get programs.
And he said the Belleville program, he said, referencing, go talk to them, is what we're advised to do, which we're following that direction. Okay. Thank you, Mike. That's all I have for it. And we'll know.
I have another question.
Sure.
Sorry. The curriculum, it's 1 year commitment, right? So Navy 1 is a full year. It's 2 semesters. Is that correct? Navy 2 would be a year, Navy 3.
Correct, yeah. Navy 1, 2, 3, 4, each one is a full year.
Okay.
That's what the website says at least.
And it's the thing about it that I really like, so the students can step in at any point. And in fact, it goes back. It's actually a 5-year program. People don't know the 8th graders can get involved in this as well, which I was excited to hear. So we have that, what do we call it when we bring our kids up for the CTE programming, the wheel. So this could very potentially fall into our wheel where we bring students forward to the high school level and they get exposure to the opportunity. And then if there was something they were interested, they would know ahead of time and not find out in 10th grade. They wish they took it in 9th grade, which again brings back the opportunities, which we're doing, in graphics, we're doing in automotive, we're doing engineering CAD. And hopefully in the near future, we can open up our health occupations lab to put it on that wheel so students get exposure. Because the technology at the high school, and one of the reasons for the wheel is that it's hard to duplicate all the technology at the middle school level and have all the same stuff that we have at high school. So they're trying to expose as many hours in the seat as they can with that idea. And this would be another perfect opportunity for more students to jump right in. And I think, is it what's the number of days they're here? Do you remember, Matt? And
well, they have a minimum, but if if this was a program that the board decided to proceed with, it would be equivalent to what all of our classes.
Right, but I'm thinking about the eighth grade issue, when we bring the kids up from eighth grade to the.
Oh,
to
the number,
They're there for how many
a few
hours?
weeks.
Yeah, it's
A
so
few
many weeks, and then they switch and they try out different things. But this would be a perfect one to get exposure. And again, in a good way. And again, the opportunity within this, not only paid for college, let's just say, for instance, in the engineering lab, students not sure of direction. And for instance, I recall when the Navy folks were here, one of the young guys was a nuclear sub guy. He said he didn't know what he wanted to do until he wound up in that level of technology and found this work. And that's kind of what we have here. We have an opportunity of a huge array of things. And I think, Mike, you put it very well. We have, culinary, we have mechanics, we have engineers, we have men that can, women that can fly the airships. And we have all the different levels. And that's what kind of fits. Everybody would have a place if it's what they wanted to do. And the other thing is, the numbers that sign up, I was told from the Navy recruiter or the Navy chief in Illinois, the lead, he said that it's a 6 or 7% number. So if you have 100 students, they figure 6 or 7 kids will go into the service in a version of, could be, if they're in a Navy program, they could go in the Army, the Air Force, the Navy. He didn't tell me if it was what the numbers were that way. And then all the other students still have this, could be 5 years in a program. And then all students are welcome as well. So we may have a situation that you have students that may not be able to pass the exam. I was involved a couple years ago in the summer program, and we were out in the fields, and I think 90% of the kids passed the test at 13 to 16 years old, but there's some that don't, but they're still able to be involved at a high level in our school, which is also, I think, very important. So all students could be involved in this.
I just have a kind of a follow-up question. I know we talked about the initial being, Navy 1, Navy 2, and in the information that Dr. Darga put together, he references the naval science curriculum, freshman year, introduction to naval science, sea power and maritime affairs, and then it continues on. Junior year is naval ship systems engineering, naval ship systems 2 weapons, evolution of warfare. That's the junior level course. The question I mean, obviously, the initial year, everyone's going to be they're going to be their initial year in the program. As it progresses forward and you then have those students progressing on to then navigation, leadership, and management, do the programs have typically one instructor that's qualified or certified to be able to teach all of these programs, or do they become more segmented and a different level of expertise as you?
When I taught junior ROTC at Milford, I was handed a complete year-long curriculum on every single class with learning objectives and all of the metrics that the teachers use. So yeah, it's one person teaching the one class.
Okay. So, and obviously, depending on the level of enrollment, I mean, it may come a point where one instructor can't be teaching a junior level at the same time there's a demand for a freshman.
I had a senior NCO retired that taught with me at Milford, and she would teach the 3-4 class because she had been doing it for a long time, and I taught the freshmen and sophomores.
Okay. Great, thanks. Thanks for being here to help.
In the Navy, I believe it's 8 years. Is that correct, Mike? You have to have 8 years with the Navy before you can teach this class. In the same.
Normally, it's a retired individual.
Retired.
It's an officer, senior officer, or a senior NCO.
And that's another great thing to have that type of leadership drop in. And I think, and then what would happen is, as it develops, again, we started with the one instructor, and again, in Belleville being our perfect example, then now they have a funded program. They put the second instructor on. Navy provided a lot more input when it came to the instructors and the people that would be available to hire to do that job, and funded it as well, by the way, and they'll pay for them.
And a master's degree is also required.
Yeah. So, but I think as we move it forward, it's a great opportunity with the county if that goes through from them. And then on our end, if we look at how we can put it together, and like I said, this just came in about the the rifles and uniforms free of charge to us. And it appears it's enough to get the whole program running, which is a big expense. And that would allow us to spend that on our staffing. And then I understand also we possibly have someone actually employed with us already that was a Navy veteran that's already certified. You're aware of that, Dr. Outlaw? Yeah. So you don't know. This it could develop home base that we would have to go too far if that person was interested. And obviously that's my belief system is if we can offer it to our existing people that have worked hard and have something they want to do in their career, it'd be great to offer it to somebody from our hometown. So.
And there was at some point discussion of this potentially being able to be counted towards PE. And from my perspective, if we move forward with this and it's going in the course guide, that would need to be very clear to students so they would know ahead of time, right? If they could count this as their PE, I don't know how that.
Yeah, so that would work as a recommendation we'd make for graduation requirement. So, yep, it is an option. The state gives the board, the leeway to determine if you want other things to count for PE. Other things, like if you're on a varsity sport for
We
so many
already have some
years, if you're part of the
exceptions,
marching band. I don't believe currently Brighton does that, but that could be up for discussion and an option for the board to determine.
Thank you.
The principal that came from Belleville, or former principal, he said that they have certain classes, and I think it's even science, and some could be math, and as well as PE, and I think that we certainly can have that discussion and see what they've done in the past. And what did you call it? It's some kind of a ladder or some kind of a.
Yeah. So what you like for PE, it's a little simpler because the law just kind of gives the board the right or you as a district to determine if you want other ways to waive your PE credit. When you look at offering other credit, it's a way of making sure the standards for that are embedded in the actual courses somewhere. So you'd have to show that cross. Not that it can't be done. It's usually just a little harder. So if it is a curriculum that's already determined, which the Navy has, we would either look at adding pieces to it or looking to see if there's additional standards that would align to that. Hopefully that makes sense.
If it can. And what they said to be concerned with was when you do that, is some colleges look at things different when you have, if you think it's a math credit or it's this or that. So students need to be aware which could apply or might not apply. And I think that in all fairness would be the things that they need to know up front. If they think they got math credit and they go to apply to the university and it's not accepted because it was but overall though, like I said, there are some that would be like PE and things like that. Obviously they're drilling and that covers a PE requirement. So, but like I said, looks very positive.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item on for future action are vape detectors. Who would like to?
Do you want to?
Mr. Conley, you want to just share
Sure,
what
we've
the
been
Finance
working-
Committee's recommended?
Sure, we've been working hard and we, I think, Scott, how are we doing on bids?
So,
Scott, you want to come up here real quick?
yeah, thanks. Halo Company has walked through the schools with maps, made maps up. They're bringing their electrician through on Tuesday, as well as Triton, those are the two prototypes that we've got in the district now. And so both coming through Tuesday with their electricians to work on pricing. That's where we're at.
Scott, why are we waiting now to do this? Why didn't we do it over the summertime?
It's never brought up.
Hmm?
It's never brought up to me to get bids on or anything.
We did a pilot. So we had a pilot that
Yeah.
went for a few weeks and.
Well, I'm familiar when the smoke detectors were put in the pilot that was run. Again, my question is why now? Why we had all summer to do this?
Well, the Finance Committee just at the last meeting made the decision that we would move forward. So that was a recommendation from the Finance Committee to complete the full project and to move.
I thought the recommendation was to allocate $100,000 or for the board to vote on $100,000 to approve the vape detectors. Is that right?
No.
What was it?
It was to solicit bids, to get bids.
Is that
for-
right, John?
Yeah.
To complete
complete the project.
Yeah, to,
Yeah.
I mean, just.
Well, yeah, and the way I left it in the finance committee was that from the notes, we asked Deputy Schuster to come in and give us his thought process on which ones are going to be the best. And we had talked to our officer at Brighton as well at another point. And then we talked about other county officials. We talked about that, getting out the word kind of through possibly a resolution that we may consider that as a board, which I passed out a kind of a generic, we talked about that. And then deter usage, which I have some signs that our students have been working on. I'll pass these, you can pass them up and down. Just something to look at, which I'm thinking we could put up on the monitors, and we'll get a start on this in a pretty, I think, good way. And those are just for consideration, for discussion. And graphics art students have been working on those for us. Deter usage for Maltby Scranton Bridge, BHS, not to exceed 100,000. And so we would request for formal bids to sought for full implementation. So in our notes, it really asks for the bid. And that's what we talked about. I would have liked to have it on the agenda for tonight, but I think it's okay. It's not going to change anything, because I think we all support doing that. I mean, so pass this down. These are some signs that we're working on, Roger, that maybe it would go up on the monitors in school. Possibly we post them in the schools, depending, once we look at them. And like I said, our graphics students are working on them along with their instructor, Mr. Carney. And I think the key to this opportunity is the opportunity to make it better for students. And we all have agreed that we want to do that. And I've met with some other school board members from other schools as well. And the vision on this is pretty big, but the problem's big. And for the families that are affected by it, the problem's real big. And so there's some in the new kind of version, and just so you guys all know, Dr. Outlaw's been helping put together a resolution, and we're throwing back ideas. I just gave him a new one today. He's got some other ideas to throw into his, and we'll come up with something through the superintendent's office if Matt takes a look at it. And this effort is going to be a serious effort. The $100,000 that I'm asking for in the budget, I think, Scott, what were our initial thoughts on this? It would be, what, 80 or so?
84.9 was the rough estimate, but we wanted to get an official bid.
Right.
They did a full walkthrough when the pilot was done of what it would be to complete it. So they had that ready to go, but they're getting exact numbers right now.
Well, back to my original question, we all know it's a big issue. We all want to try to solve the problem, but we continue to kick the can down the road. Why didn't we do this over the summer and get it done over the summer?
Because it came through the committees during the process in the last couple of weeks. We actually, in the bond committee, you weren't there, the last bond committee, we specifically talked about, although Halo is the recommended detector, the recommended detector from a standpoint of effectiveness. We felt, as I understand it, Halo is single sourced, so you can't competitively bid Halo. So what we recommended at the bond committee was that even though Triton may not necessarily be may be the best, just for comparison purposes, we wanted to get a bid from Triton and from Halo. So that's why we are now getting bids from both Halo and Triton. So ultimately, if,
I understand the bidding process. I understand that. But again, if this is so urgent as it appears to be, and there's issues that everybody knows with vaping, again, I'm only asking a question. Why are we continuing to, we've already started school again this year. This could have been up and running in the summertime. We could have had vape detectors, and we could have been well on our way.
No, but we didn't take it up in the committees, but in the finance committee or the bond committee until recently.
And I'm surprised administration didn't come and ask.
I don't know that it necessarily.
I guess it was the committee that had to bring them up. So
in any event, I think we're doing our due diligence.
We're making forward
Good,
progress.
yes, I agree.
It's moving quickly.
Okay, good.
Scott, we award a bid. And that's the other question, Roger. Do we have to, like in Scott's position, if these bids come in, if we want to do a bid award, how do we make that as proper as possible? Obviously, we can't missteps here.
Well, it's going to be on for action at the next
next
meeting.
meeting.
Right. And but presumably we will have the bids back by that time. Again, I mean, Halo is, as I understand it, is single source. There is no bidding process. But because there wasn't, we thought, well, it'd be a good idea to get a bid from Triton, just to kind of, so we've got a comparison.
We have, Mr. Jacobs, we have other schools running this system, correct? Similar to what we're working on.
Howell does not have any, Heartland has a.
That's all so far. But Howell schools at this time has none.
Heartland has, or Howell has,
Heartland has a.
Heartland has Halo and Howell has Triton, if I'm correct.
And we have both,
They-
right?
We tried them both.
We've tried both. We've done a pilot with both.
Right.
And,
And
the-
Halo seems to be the one we.
our law enforcement
That's what law
and
enforcement-
administration lean more towards
And
Halo.
we can award on best value.
Well, they're sole sourced. I mean,
Well, that's my
got one
point.
choice.
That's best value.
So we'll be back with bids shortly, and then the board can make a final decision.
If it'd be okay, though, we'll do a mini board consensus. Is there anybody here that has a
Halo
problem?
detectors are through the tip system too. So,
So
but
it's
the
the bidding.
paper is not.
So anybody here on a consensus basis that has a problem keeping this moving forward? Everybody's good?
No.
Okay, good, okay. So thank you.
All right.
And Scott, thanks for the hard work you're doing on that too. for us.
Thanks, Scott. All right. That moves us to item E, security investment, section 97 and section 31AA. Nick or Dr. Alwa?
I can start it. And, so I've got Nick, and if Scott's up here, this is the section 97 grant. We talked about this, I think, about a month ago. And I have both our folks here to answer questions that the board might have.
I can just go over it real quick, Matt. So on the security bids, you guys all should have that in front of you for the bids. We did an RFP and bid that out for the security film. Buster Blinds out of Traverse City was the low bidder. They were at $218,160. The second bidder was a local company right here in Brighton. They're the ones that did our film the last time around, the film that we do have done. Their bid was $262,734, but they also included interior glass, and they had maps in their bid that included that. So I asked them to break that out, and the interior glass was $28,000. So they're still second, they're not lower, but they're at $234,734, which they're $16,000 higher for the local company in Brighton that just did the work last time around.
Scott, how does this compare to the initial proposal that came before the board when we first discussed this?
Well, Image 360 was, they were the ones that came first time. They were 303.72. Was that the original price? The Image 360, was that the price you brought last time?
Our original price when we first came before the bid process was higher because we included mirrored window film.
Correct.
Yeah. So it was higher because of the mirrored window film.
So would it be possible to maybe send to Dr. Outlaw, and Dr. Outlaw could share with the board what the delta is between what the initial proposal was versus what the final bid was that you just shared? Just so it's.
With the mirrored windows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if we would have approved it that night, we would
Yeah.
have proceeded with that dollar amount.
Well, I will say, I mean, personally, I wouldn't support the mirrored windows, because I think, as I understand it, the film is only going to be the lower windows. So where you have the glass, so for example, in the cafeteria, you would have, if we went with the mirrored option, it would have a mirror on the lower level, and then you'd have the clear glass on the upper level. So you'd have a dichotomy. Whereas I personally think that we should maintain consistency in terms of the exterior appearance. If the non-mirrored, it's going to have the same protective film. It's just going to look like it's the same glass as the glass above.
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
The mirrored would look different from the glass above.
Right.
Scott, which vendor would you like to use?
Well, the Life 360 Life Safety is a local vendor. They did it before. I know their work, so I'm
Where's the
comfortable
other
with
company
them.
from?
What's that?
Where's the other company from?
Traverse City.
So if there's a service call, they got to come from Traverse City.
Correct.
Okay. And again,
There-
I
there's
think I would
16.
like to see all the windows, even the interior windows, because that would give us secure space on the inside as well that isn't secure now, right? If we did the inside windows?
That's correct. They figured all the interior windows except for the windows with wired glass, and that was 262.
So, yep. Okay.
Just as a representative that did have the process, we not considered anymore? Because we
Well,
were the
that's-
first group that actually came through and went through.
This is
1, 2, 3.
Measured everybody.
Yeah, I mean, we're not making any decisions tonight. We're just getting information and feedback, regarding the bids. So Scott, you mentioned, as a follow-up to Mr. Trombley's question, I didn't hear a little bit ago, you said that, what was the cost for the interior to
It's
include?
28,000.
How much?
28,000. Should be on there, over to the
that's-
right.
that-
See right here, so, see, look on the next.
I'm looking on page 68.
Right, it's right here.
Oh,
I'll give
you
it
know
to
what,
you.
he's
Give that
got
to Roger.
Image 360.
Roger, right here.
Yeah.
An added one.
Oh, that wasn't in the packet.
Correct.
That
I'm
is
sorry.
additional.
I got you.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
put those on at the beginning of the board meeting,
Okay, I got you.
so you had it.
And the other question, as a clarification, Scott, is on the two proposals they're both Buster Blinds, as I understand it, they're two different,
One's the 8 mil, one's a 14 mil.
Right.
The 14 mil's the higher.
pardon me?
14 mil was 243, the 8 mil was 218.
And the 8 mil is,
Because 8 mil is what we spec,
yeah.
the S800.
All right.
If I could ask, are there any other differences in the coverage or the product that's being offered between each of the companies that bid?
The life, or the 360 Life it's a Templar, I believe it's the name of it. Could be wrong on that. But it's a 12 mil product. That's the same thing we have on our building now. So the 12 mil is, the S800 came out, it's a newer film. And the 12 mil that we have in our building now is equal to that. Only that being said, the S800 has more fibers meshed through it, so the breakthrough strength is about the same.
And is that, so are all of the other providers offering the S800 8 mil product?
I believe so.
We're just doing some napkin math here. It looks like the highest bid was 526, 486.
That was Roseville Glass who's
And the
doing
lowest
it,
bid was 218, 160.
correct?
So through the solicitation process, there's a range of $308,326 from highest bid to lowest bid.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? No? All right. That concludes the for future action portion of our agenda.
Nope, not yet.
Was there any other questions? I thought there was any, no? Oh, I'm sorry, I just,
Cameras or anything?
Sure. I mean, yeah, if there's questions,
Yeah, I was curious if you found any other information or what you added since we talked about it last time.
As far as equipment,
Yeah.
we haven't added anything. We're going to stick with the exact same proposals we had last time for the interior, exterior servers. This is good.
On that
Yeah,
same note
yeah.
then, so Deputy Schuster, our meeting recognized some shortcomings
Okay.
at Stratton. Are you aware of those?
Yeah, he did let me know about those. I haven't had time to look through all of the ones I noticed.
I
but-
recommend we take them very seriously.
Oh, no, I do. Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
they probably should come to us maybe now, and not an additional thing, or package it in.
Or
because
perhaps, are we comparing what Deputy Schuster requested?
Well, we did the
to what's
original,
here?
we did the original walkthrough. I did the walkthrough with all the officers and we did. So I think I don't know if Officer Bell is still here, but I took Deputy Schuster, I took Officer Bell, I took our security guards, and I took principals from each building. We walked out and we pointed out all those, and that's all in here, yes. Those are all the ones that they wanted, yes.
I got you. So the
Yes.
new ones though, regarding
Correct.
the new
So
driveway,
there's additional, and then there's replacing existing.
I can hear, if it's okay, I'll give you a copy of the notes from our meeting.
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
For the finance committee.
Yeah. But he was one of the ones that walked the entire district with.
Right. So here's that specifically in line 2. So if you could kind of reach out to him, and just so we don't miss something, this is the time. There's a new road, maybe it wasn't considered actually then, was it? Because the road wasn't in.
The road was not in at that time, no.
This is the time to make sure we're not behind when we start. Because
Sure.
Technology business, right, it changes by the day almost.
Yes.
So it'd be, in my opinion anyway, I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it, but I'd like to know what it costs to do, what our liaison officer would like to see done. This is regarding the new road and access from the back that he doesn't have any coverage on. So he was asking to see what we could do. And when he came to the finance committee meeting, Matt, you can maybe speak a little bit better. He was pretty serious about wanting to get something so he could.
Yeah, I think it's a must. We're going to do that for sure.
Yeah, and I believe
Yeah,
it's only an
that's-
additional 2 cameras besides what we already spec'd out.
Okay.
So it's not,
We know the material.
we know the material need, yes.
Okay, so it's not.
We just didn't know placement.
At the gate?
Yeah, part of it, part of where it comes, he doesn't have the app, he can't see, he's blind through.
So as the road comes around on the south side by the courts, so it'd be pointing towards those areas over there as people are coming in. We just didn't know exactly where everything was gonna fall, if there was gonna be stuff in the way, so we wanted to wait till that stuff was placed before we went back through and
Is there a power
looked at.
feed at that point?
Yeah, we got power at the gate.
Well, the gate we do, but what about?
There's a 277, I think. So
There's powers to all the, even the outbuildings, there's data and power up to the outbuildings.
Okay, super. It'd be nice to, like I said, consider to get her, right.
I just have an additional question about the back building with the renovated classrooms. Those are incorporated into this, right? Do we need, I mean, I don't know what's in that hallway now. So most of this is replacement and then some touching up, but are those included in here? From a coverage
This is
standpoint?
district-wide.
This is district-wide. This is the entire district.
Every building.
This is upgrading from 2 megapixel cameras to 5 megapixel 4K, and then doing the whole back end.
And that hallway currently has cameras in it. I guess I'm asking because it's not really being used as classroom space.
So that classroom, as far as, you're talking down this way?
Yeah.
Yep, once you go around the corners there are cameras up there, yes,
Okay.
and those will be replaced as well.
Thanks.
No problem.
Any other questions? Roger. Just so the board knows, the back building is excluded from the film because of the next year's mechanical renovation. We're going to be changing the windows for them. So just so you know.
Thank you, Scott. All right. So that now concludes item E, the security investment, concludes the for future action portion of the agenda and moves us into board reports. Mr. Conley.
The issue about paying at football games and students not be able to get in, I don't know anything about it, but I had somebody called me or stopped by the office and said we can't get in if they have cash. And I have my concern, and I don't know why they have to pay anyway. We're talking at home around our kitchen table about why don't the students just get free access anyway with their student ID to go to the game? Just an idea before we, say no. I mean, I don't know, do we charge our own students to get in the football game?
Yes.
We do. Well, at this point, they can't get in if their mom gives them $20 or dad,
That was an MHSAA decision, though. I
Or it
just
was.
wanted, yes,
So it
that's
wasn't
coming
just-
from MHSAA, yes.
So maybe.
So they have the ability to dictate to us what we do at our football games?
So I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, this is actually the conference
Oh, the
made
conference,
made a
yeah.
decision
Yeah.
on this.
So it was not MHSA?
MHSA made a decision for all of their events last year.
Yeah, playoffs.
They made that move, but this decision was a conference decision. Some of the other school districts had, but
But
yes.
we as Brighton area schools have the ability as a school board to establish policy that. Correct. Thank you. So it's up to us.
At the end of the day. So my thought initially was maybe we just don't charge it this year and say, kids can get your student ID and you Scranton Middle School, because the day of, if you recall, when you went to your school games as a middle school kid and you're running around and doing all that stuff. And we used to, the field here where your soccer field is where I used to come, that was Sloan Field. And that was our football field. And then we moved to the high school where we're at now. But I recall a lot of great times with the kids and being out and hanging out and having a good time. And running around. So I would just like our board to think about encouraging that at all aspects. And really, just because of the good things that can transpire, it is, obviously it gets busy and all that, and you got to keep an eye on some others. There's always one or two that want to cause a little grief, but the reality is the majority of the students benefit from being at the games. And I'm going to put it at 99+%. So we want to encourage them to get in the game, and we wouldn't want anybody to be turned away.
What would be a reason why we would not want to do that? Colleges, universities are promoting, their students going to athletic
They
events.
pay their taxes, their parents have.
Even with an ID.
So
A lot of schools charge for their football admissions,
Yeah.
even their students.
So
Some don't.
I guess we could, well, we have our revenue, we could check with our revenue agent now and see what we're bringing in from gate receipts and decide if it's something we want to cough up. You
Well,
know,
I do think the question about cash is important because one of the reasons we had the ad hoc fundraising
Right.
committee
Yeah.
is because we had concerns about managing cash that were raised by a number of members of
Still raising
the
it, too.
board.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that will happen when we are trying to put tighter controls around cash. More things are going to be electronic only. And that, I mean, we can't always have it both
Then
ways.
you have to have a machine out there to give them a debit card and turn it into cash.
I'd fully
Give them a
support
card.
allowing students to have access to Brighton athletic events across the board,
I would
fine
too.
arts, concerts, free of charge.
Same.
Fully support.
I would too. The other thing we could do in the meantime is we'll have a little thing that switches the cash into a card, and then they can use their card and swipe it. I mean, you can set them up very easily. We used to have them in the business, and we still do gift cards and do whatever. I don't think that's totally necessary, but rather than have students turned away.
There are also online systems where you can prepay, buy your ticket, show up, it's on your phone, you show your little
And that would be fine,
barcode,
too.
and you just get in.
What I
Dave, welcome to Brighton area schools. Love it.
So that's the idea. But the problem is it goes back to the student that doesn't have, most students have phones now. And you certainly would think if they can buy a $600 phone, they could pay for the gate receipt. I got it, the gate ticket. But in this case, we have a situation. So if whatever you guys are working on that stuff and policies, and I think it's great that we're doing that. I support it 100%, as you know already. We talked about it for years, actually. And we're actually taking a dive into it right now to make it better. But not make it worse on the students. There's going to be a learning time and a growing time. And if we got to forego that during the learning time, I'd be willing to take the risk on the cash side, just so students got the benefit of their own football games. How's that sound? Or do them for free until we figure it out. Anybody with a student ID can show their badge and walk into the game.
Yeah, I think so.
We pay them.
I have no idea. I get a pass.
Well, and in a sense, so let's think about it, and we can all, we all have had kids and have kids, and, so we'll just have to think about what's best for
Nick
their.
says he pays just to contribute right there.
Can you just clarify so it's conference, right? So that is just our varsity sports conferences? Like the teams that would fall under that would be the required electronic payment? Is that true?
Yeah, it is. It was a decision by the conference. There's I think it goes all the way out to like Wayne Westland, and it's this giant conference. So the conference made the move towards it, and Brighton opted to join them. So.
One other thing, you had something, Andy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I want to just, the potential resolution that was passed around regarding the vapes. This resolution is being looked at by us and others, including some people who work for us here at the school and people that have a lot of ability in this area. There'll be some slides that we already have made for presentation purposes that are already in a can that Brighton Schools have been working on for quite a while. They'll be coming along with this should we elect to do this. I'd like the board to really look this over, and I think it's a good idea. And there's, concerns of, well, what do we have a resolution on everything? Well, this is a crisis, and a lot of families are affected by it. I believe if we show united front on this, we can make a significant difference for students. I really do. And I would like the board to consider it. And it could be something on there you just don't like at all. You can put a big mark on it or whatever, or you don't want anything to do with it at all. That's again, the board member's decision. But I would like to see something happen. And I can share with you that it is in front of the county commissioners. They haven't seen this rendition yet, but they'll have it's going through their policy and safety committee as well for the 9 county, Livingston County. And then the other board members, I don't have a status update on where they're at with their schools. But we'll have another meeting in the very near future to talk about where we're all at. But it will be in front of the county in the near future, where they would then be in support of us and we'd be in support of them. And then we could go school by school, and I'll have maybe a similar stand on this for the health and welfare of our students countywide. And I think it would be a great stand. And this could be the first one of many, maybe more to come. But we can definitely if you talk to people that have endured this, I can share with you the stories, the ones that I have are firsthand, including one of our top legal professionals in our county with her child and dealing with it now, starting in the 9th grade, now 21 years old, and just having lots of trouble with it currently. So it's going to be bad for some and others not. So I'd like the board to think about it. So thank you.
Mr. Storm.
So I sit on the finance committee with John, and one of the things I wanted to address tonight, publicly versus through the media and through outreach from different board members that have called me, teachers and stakeholders of our school district, is just a few examples of the items that I have brought up consistently at the board table and with our administration regarding this district. I don't think any of them are contentious. It's unfortunate that the perception from those who read the media and trust when they read a news article that it's factually correct get distraught and upset over such things. But it's our role, all of our roles as board members, to represent the electorate who voted us into this office. And we all take that very seriously, and obviously have different political leanings and passions that have drawn us to this role. But I just wanted to highlight a few examples to just share with the public versus through the media some of the very difficult, challenging questions that I asked of our prior CFO. I met with Dr. Outlaw in February 3rd of this year,
Andy,
and asked for an update on how we can control costs. What?
If your intent is to have commentary or criticism about a former employee.
No commentary or criticism. This is about my correspondence with the superintendent regarding the finance committee.
You said the former CFO about the criticism. You just said
the reference in the media, Roger. There's an article in the media that.
Yeah, I'm fully aware of it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So this is related to correspondence I have with the superintendent.
About the former CFO.
No, about finance related matters for this district. Am I allowed to proceed, Roger?
Sure.
Okay. So this is in February, and the question that I posed to Dr. Outlaw was, what ideas do you have as the leader of our district to address cost? And some of the feedback that he provided: staffing, special luxury programs, capital outlay, supplies, collective bargaining, fund balance, human nature costs, other non-core items. From thereafter, I ultimately reached out on the 17th of February and said, I'm very interested in seeing how these actions or these recommendations can be put into action. And that led to discussions around how we actually manage the expectations of the administration who supports our district, and ultimately went into examining performance reviews that tied to how we execute the goals of this district. And I discovered that performance reviews weren't being conducted for key members of our administration for multiple years. And the roles and responsibilities that are captured in the job description that they used when they were hired into the district were not actually being enforced
Andy,
through the performance review
Andy,
process.
that's just not accurate. Okay, no, and so
What is inaccurate, Roger?
this is not this is a board report.
What is
Okay,
inaccurate?
if your intent is to sit here and start a debate over whether you received a satisfactory response to your question, and then one or more of us then disagree with you.
It's not accurate.
This isn't the proper
Go
time.
ahead, for
If
the
you
public,
have,
what's not accurate?
it's, the questions you're asking and the satisfaction of the information you received back may not be satisfactory to you,
I didn't
but it may
ask
be
that.
satisfactory
I
to me.
didn't ask that.
This
So
is
it's
not the
not
proper
accurate about
time.
it.
This is not a board report. This is not the proper time to get into
Is
this.
there anything not accurate about what I said? What?
I just studied the information and the other information that you're referring to, there was feedback that was given. The information that you requested, it was sent to all the board members. You weren't happy with it, but that doesn't mean that others aren't happy with it. My point is this.
Was it
This is the
accurate?
board report.
What wasn't accurate?
This is the board report portion of our agenda. What you are trying to do is not a board report and it's not appropriate.
What
So
wasn't accurate, Roger?
if there's any more board reports, Dr. Krebs.
So I have a board report
Didn't
from,
he still have the floor?
No, I mean, this is not a board report.
You
This is-
gave him the floor.
No, this is not a board report.
You gave him the
Okay.
floor. Are you done, Andy?
I'm not.
Well, he's done with that topic because we're not going to get into a debate
I'm not
over whether
debating
this
anything.
set. Yeah, you are.
I'm stating fact, Roger. I have the written correspondence right here.
If anybody has a board report, you're welcome to provide that. Dr. Krebs, do you have a board report?
So regarding
Dr. Krebs,
this.
Dr. Krebs, it's your,
Which led to
Okay, Andy?
this discussion.
Mr. Storm, there's no,
Who suggested we go out and get competitive bids on this, Roger?
this is not a board report, okay? This is not a board report.
Can you answer that?
We all did.
Okay, the whole
Right.
board?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That has nothing to do with evaluations that you apparently weren't happy with, okay? So
doesn't?
again, that's part of why this is not a board report.
Okay. All
Dr.
right, Roger.
Krebs. Thank you, Mr. Storm.
Thank you,
So-
Roger.
thank you. I'm going to talk about the Academic Curriculum Committee. We met back in August, and Dr. Mosier was telling us about the new teacher orientation. We'll talk about something really positive. So at the time, I was just asking you, at the time you said you had 14 teachers? It's still 14? I didn't know if we had that. So I think she was reporting the process that they're using for new teachers. Most of our new teachers are not new teachers to the profession, they're just new teachers to the district. But I think they have a very intentional 3-day program to get the teachers to get the staff to get to know the community, get to know the district. And then there's continuing sessions throughout the years for just the new teachers. I think that's really positive to see that. 3 full days. So that's the first thing we talked about. And then we had Ms. Boyd talking about the tiered intervention. So she was talking a little bit about that, how they're supporting the students, what her role was in that. Now she's moving from that position now that she's the principal at Spencer. But she was talking about meeting the needs of all students. It was really helpful, but how she was talking about that. So I just wanted to mention that it was really informative to us to learn that. So thank you.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Krebs.
I will just have a quick note. The policy committee had to reschedule the meeting that we intended to have at the beginning of the month, so we are now meeting on September 18th. I think the meeting information is posted on the website for anybody that wants to join us.
I have a comment from the policy committee. At our last policy committee meeting, I brought up this letter that was sent to all of our board from a parent, a mother, whose child was involved in a Title IX case in Brighton area schools. She gave us approval to read the letter in the board meeting. Am I allowed to read this, Roger?
No, you're not, because
Okay.
I've talked to that parent and she does not agree with that. And you know.
She doesn't
that
agree with what?
With you, we reading the letter, I've talked to this parent, and again, this is not a board report, okay?
It absolutely is a board report. I brought up to the policy committee at our last policy committee meeting.
That has nothing to do
that
with
we
the
need-
policy
we
committee
need
report.
public transparency around a report that our district conducted to evaluate how we handle Title IX cases. And there's a university 45 miles up the road who has a board, who has a transparency problem.
Okay, well, that's not
And as
us.
long- It's not us?
No, we're not this university 45 miles up the road.
Okay.
All right, so if there's no
So
further
when are
board
we gonna
reports.
share- When are we going to share that report with the public, Roger? since
There's
we're
no
not
further
likely to
board
have received the
reports. That will conclude all of the items on our agenda this evening. Our next meeting
Are you gonna
is
share
Monday,
the
September
report with the public,
25th
Roger?
at 7 PM, and this meeting is adjourned.
Okay. Roger, this is exactly what happened in Michigan State. Same thing. Privilege, I can't share it. Everybody plays along. Share.
Oh, I do.
Share with the public.
Thank you.
Share information.
You know what? I noticed you had something on the calendar